Thanks for tuning in for another edition of the Crowdfunding Roundup. This is a Friday edition, which I am now shooting on a Saturday, so it should be posting on Saturday night. The reason for the delay is that I had a very long game of the Defense of Procyon 3 on Friday, and that game has 5 different rule books. So I had a lot of reading, a lot of preparing to do for that game, and then the game itself took a lot of time. I will be talking about that game in the next video that I shoot, the video that comes out on Tuesday and covers everything that premiered over the weekend. Generally on those videos, I do a second section where I talk about all the games that I've played in the last week, and the Defense of Procyon 3 will be among those played games. In this week's back half, though, I'll be looking at 3 crowdfunding campaigns that are completing next week. So this is sort of your last chance at jumping on and backing these before they fund and complete their run. And I've hand-selected 3 campaigns that I think my viewers may want to know about and consider backing if you haven't already. But let's get to the top half of the video first and talk about the 7 different campaigns that premiered in the last couple of days on Wednesday and Thursday of this week. And as always, my videos are bookmarked, so you can scroll over the bar there and go to whichever campaign, whichever game you're specifically interested in. And if, while you're watching this, a campaign catches your attention, you can go down into the description section, click on the link, and it will take you right over to that game's campaign. Without any further ado, let's kick things off with a look at Final Strike. Now, this game is on Gamefound. As you can see here, they have a funding goal of $5,000, which they've passed. They're currently at $6,000. This campaign is going to fund on April 11th. Or I should say the campaign is going to end on April 11th. And we can see here that the campaign will deliver in December of 2023. Now, the base game here is available for a pledge of $55. They do have this $100 pledge, which adds in upgraded bits and a t-shirt and a supporter Discord role, which basically amounts to a badge on Discord. So the premium bits are also available down in the add-ons. They are, is it $15? Yeah, $15. So along with the base game, that would bring the total to $70. So I guess the question is whether you think it would be worth paying $30 for a t-shirt and a Discord badge. I think not, but that is my personal opinion. Also, if we look down here, we can see shipping is going to be a flat $80, which means that that base game is going to be $63 and the bundle is going to be $108. Now, here's a quick look at the cards and kind of how the game works. So, forge a deck. You're going to be building this tableau here. They're building this as a grid-based deck builder. So it's kind of a relatively simple deck building card game with this kind of I don't know, is that 16-bit art, 32-bit art? Video game art. I'm not sure on my bits. Now, here's one thing, though, that does give me a little bit of pause about the campaign. It says the designer, Lane Davis, a full-time mobile game developer who has done work on a very popular golf card game and even worked on local Minnesota legend Vengeance by Escape Industries. Having worked on this project for 8+ years, he was delighted when his friend Peter Yang approached him about publishing the game together. Peter Yang here is listed as the producer. If we go over to Final Strike here, Peter Yang, I think, has listed himself as the designer of the game. And Lane Davis is not credited here, nor are any of the artists. And if we go into Peter Yang's bio, it says, a charismatic public speaker with a passion for games and game development. From board games to video games, I enjoy nothing more than helping people bring their fun ideas to stand up above the crowds. From his LinkedIn bio. But obviously he wrote this. It says, I enjoy nothing more than helping people bring, blah, blah, blah. But he self-describes himself as a charismatic public speaker. Which is, perhaps tooting your own horn too much. And then you combine that with the fact that he's listed himself here as the designer of the game without listing Lane Davis. I don't know, it's just the kind of thing that raises red flags for me. Over here on Board Game Geek, though, they call it, well, first of all, it's for 2 to 4 players. They call it a competitive deck forging game, and it's listed in the categories as card game, fantasy, number, video game theme, with mechanisms including chaining, deck construction, deck building, hand management, kill steal, market, and team-based games. Like, I'd like to support this guy. I'm just not sure what this guy is doing to take credit away from this guy. Perhaps nothing. Perhaps I'm making a big deal out of nothing. But that, as well as this kind of pledge where they're adding in a t-shirt and a Discord badge for an additional $30, all of that kind of gives me pause. But there are some videos here if you want to take a closer look at this one. And as we mentioned, the campaign is going to wrap on April 11th and deliver in December 2023. All right, so that is Final Strike on Gamefound. Also on Gamefound is this game called Jew 87 Stuka Ace from Lock and Load Publishing. This one had a funding goal of $15,000. They're almost at $21,000, so they are funded as well. This campaign will end on the 24th of April, and we can see over here that it's going to deliver in September of 2023. Now, they did have an early pledge for this. It's gone at this time. And the only pledge available now is the full pledge. So it'd be $70 for this. It's a war game, Stuka Ace. Solitaire war game. Allows you to simulate Junker or Hunker 87 operations throughout the course of World War II, from the beginning of the Blitzkrieg in Poland, the anti-tank operations, and the Russian campaign. It's a brand new game engine built around what made the Stuka unique, the dive bombing. This method of attack is very different from the standard bombing operated by other aircraft, and Ju-87 Stuka pilot fully reflects this uniqueness. Okay, so it's a solitaire war game, and it is going, let's see, is there shipping on this? Shipping rates, okay. So in the continental US, we're just going to call it $25, which means you'd be paying $95 for this game. So here's kind of a quick look through, you've got a board there. It's going to involve some cards, some markers, counters, and that's your game. Now, if you're curious about the publisher or the designers, let's take a quick look over on Board Game Geek. Always a great resource. Okay, so the designer here is Gottardo Zaccani, and he is best known for Space Infantry, Rifles in the Ardennes, Rifles in the Pacific. Lock and Load Publishing, their highest rated games include World at War, Eisenbach Gap, Lock and Load Band of Heroes, World at War 85, Storming the Gap, a bunch of World at War games and Lock and Load games, and they take their name from the Lock and Load series. So that's what they've done. I'm not that familiar with the publisher just because I'm not that much into war games, but I imagine if you are, you probably are familiar with this publisher. So those two games launched on Wednesday along with Wild Gardens, and this one's over on Backerkit. This game is sort of a resource gathering set collection game. There are also some things you can do to upgrade your engine. Take a quick look over here on Board Game Geek. Before we do that, though, let's look. So they've had a funding goal of $40,000. They're at $91,000, so they're funded. The campaign will end on April the 19th. And let's see. Backerkit's a little different. I think I'm going to actually have to click back it. No, I don't. With the timetable, here we go. So they're planning on delivering this in May 2024. So this is a ways out. And since we're here, that's what the game's going to look like. So you have these player markers. You're going to be walking around this main board, gathering resources. You will then use those resources to cook various food items based on, kind of contracts like recipes. And then you'll be able to put these, you have player boards here. There's this library board, which will allow you to take things to upgrade your player boards and give you more actions. And, I suppose in that sense, it's kind of a simple, like a lighter game. There are a lot of games like this where you're getting resources and then you're making things and you're fulfilling contracts. This is pretty cool, though. Down here, there is a solo mode with a campaign, which I think is pretty neat. So here's a quick look at the gameplay, though. So choose your action, forage the ingredients. So if you're going in this space, you're getting all of the surrounding ingredients, all 4 ingredients that surround this space. Then you're going to be able to use these to cook recipes, and you're going to serve guests, and you can go to the library to upgrade your player boards, which is part of the powering up here. And then you'll rest and you'll finish the round and do another round. And then here's this solo scenario book. Each unique puzzle scenario features a narrative-driven story that will challenge players and take them deeper into the world of Wild Gardens. The solo storybook is included in every copy of Wild Gardens and allows players to experience the game in fun and exciting new ways. I think this is great because, we're still living in a post-pandemic world and people are socializing more than they did for a few years. But, there's still some problems there. And if you back a game, it's great to have the ability to play it solo. And if you're playing it solo, it's great to have kind of a campaign that you can involve yourself with. Now, over here, we've got the shipping. So the base game is going to be a $16 shipping cost. The bundle is $18. Those pledge levels are referring to, what did I say the shipping was? 16 and 18. Okay. So the pledge levels up here, that's the add-ons. Here's the pledge levels. So the base game is 50. With shipping, that would be 66. The Gamers Bundle is 125, which includes all of the add-ons. With shipping, that's going to be 143. Not including this lore book, which goes for $30, and a plushie for $20. But it will include these 3 expansion packs. It will also include this premium wooden ingredients pack, and it will include this premium wooden source token pack. And the source token pack, you can see it's fairly thick. It comes with some game trays storage systems. Is it game trays? I know it's a game tray system. They don't mention game trays, so it's probably not game trays, but it is a game tray system. Yeah, discard trays. So this is how it's all going to fit together. However, it looks as though this box is probably not big enough to fit inside the base game box, which is up here. If you look at this pledge, it shows all 3 boxes together. So I think everything, all of these cards and these tokens, I think these will all store inside here. The question is whether or not this box will store inside the base game box. And I believe the answer is no. Meaning if you have it on your shelf, you'd still need to store 2 boxes, I believe. If we want to know a little bit of information on the designer and the artist and the publisher, I believe it's a new publisher. The designer here is Isaac Vega. He's done a bunch of things, probably best known for Dead of Winter, Forgotten Waters, and Ashes Reborn. He's also done Flick 'em Up and some other things. City of Remnants, Starship Samurai, the BioShock Infinite game. The artist, Alyssa Menold, who I'm less familiar with, has worked on Keystone North America, Encounters, Shadowrun, Labyrinthos, and the publisher, Rose Gauntlet. Okay, so they've done one game before, which is this Keystone North America game that used the same artist. Well, or the artist was one of the artists involved with that game. Okay, and it's, did Isaac design this? Oh yeah, he did. He co-designed Keystone. So this company is co-founded by Isaac Vega, the designer of Wild Gardens, and Lindsay Road. All right, and this is their second game. So that is Wild Gardens. That one's on Backerkit. And then we have the Thursday launches. First up is 2040 and American Insurgency. This is from Compass Games. This is a war game. Their funding goal was $2,500. They're at $5,200. The campaign will end on April 12th, and the game will deliver in June 2023. You can see I already kind of popped in the shipping here. I believe there's only one pledge level. There's a higher pledge level that will get you 2 copies of the game, but there aren't extras beyond that. So if you just want 1 copy, you're looking at the $55 pledge. Once you add shipping onto that, it's a total of $69. Game designed by Edward Castronova. And let's just take a quick scroll through the board here. 2 scenarios are presented. One depicts a rebellion that emerges from rural areas in the Midwest and South. The other puts the rebellion in urban areas along the coasts. And as you can see, that is the US. As such, the game is open to multiple interpretations of future politics in the US. The game was designed not to make political statements of one kind or another, but rather to accurately model counterinsurgency operations in the continental US, regardless of who the rebels happen to be. Many of the game mechanics are familiar from the existing body counterinsurgency sims. The resources and operations available to the 2 players are different. The insurgency is depicted as an asymmetric conflict. Gameplay is card-driven, however, with events depicting situations that may arise in the U.S. context. For example, if a civil war to occur, the Supreme Court is likely to make rulings that affect the conflict. Therefore, there are SCOTUS cards involving the Second Amendment and the government's ability to make arrests. So as we can see, it is 2040. This is a war game not based on historics, but on, possible future, conflicts. And as they've said here, this isn't a politicized game. They're not trying to take a side one way or another. They're just looking at things that are happening and they're trying to gamify it. So there's not like a political agenda behind this. They're just trying to make a game out of what could be happening in the US. Now, if we... There you go. Let's just take a quick look at the designer. Compass Games has done a ton of war games. They're probably one of the biggest war game publishers. This game features mechanisms including dice rolling and variable player powers. It simulates a U.S. Civil War in the 21st century. It can be played 1 to 2 players, 3-hour game. And the designer here, so this is, well, the designer's done one other game, but I don't think it's come out yet. It's called Western Twilight. It's going to be published by Academy Games. And the artist, Ilya Kudryashov, has worked on Brotherhood and Unity, The Wars of Marcus Aurelius, Dual Gauge, so a bunch of other war games. And just in case you're not familiar with Compass Games, their highest rated games include the Russian Campaign, Enemy Action Ardennes, Crusade and Revolution, the Spanish Civil War, 1936 to 1939, Brotherhood and Unity, Silent War. They are a pretty prolific war game company, and they tend to run a new campaign every 2 or 3 months. Okay, so that was on Kickstarter. BattleTech Mercenaries is also on Kickstarter. This is another war game. This is coming at wargaming from a different kind of angle, though. So this one had a funding goal of $50,000. They're currently at $4.3 million, so it's doing quite well. There are a huge number of fans of BattleTech out there, obviously. Now, this is not really a new game. It's using this system from 2019 called BattleTech: A Game of Armored Combat. So when you're pledging this, well, first of all, the campaign's going to end on April 20th, and the game's going to be shipping out in June 2024. And this is from Catalyst Games. Let's just take a quick look over there, because they've done a bunch of different things. So they're best known for Shadowrun, BattleTech, Dragonfire. Shadowrun and Dragonfire are similar. They're deck building kind of campaign type games. And that and kind of BattleTech are their big things, really. So, yeah, let's just take a quick kind of look through this. There's obviously a lot of miniatures. This is all about miniatures wargaming. And as we scroll down here, so if you're pledging, this pledge level here is just going to get you a novel that's kind of based on the IP. This is the first pledge level that you might want to actually back. It's going to come with the BattleTech Beginner's Box and the Mercenaries Salvage Box. I believe this, it says Mercenaries Box, but I believe this is the Mercenaries Salvage Box. These are just kind of different boxes you can add on. And I think if I go down far enough, we'll actually get to see the beginner's box. Okay, so this is the novel. This is this beginner's box here. So you're getting some things with this, but it's not like a board game, right? It's kind of like a campaign game with miniatures. It's a little bit different from like a board game war game. Then you've got a veteran pledge level here that's going to come with not the base game, but the Mercenaries box, a challenge coin, a digital version of the novel, and this 4-inch Timberwolf statue mini. And then as you go up, you kind of just add in more mini packs. So this is, it's a game system, really, rather than a board game. And, it's kind of a campaign miniatures game. And there's opportunities here for you to pledge at different levels, for you to pick up different things. But it's not even really a new thing because it's based on this system that originally came out in 2019. It's just got I think the Mercenaries box is the thing that's new. And then there's also opportunities to pick up like the beginner's box if you kind of just want to start simple. So that is BattleTech Mercenaries. That's obviously funding really, really well. But as far as covering this as like a board game, it's sort of an edge case. I'm mostly covering it just because a lot of people are interested in it. And I feel like if the interest is there, then I should include it. Then we go to Heroes of the Pacific, Battle of Guadalcanal. This is another war game. It's a big time for war games right now, this period of this video. This one had a funding goal of $43,000. They're at $77,000, so they're funded. War games from well-known publishers, like I think all of these publishers that we're talking about today, they're fairly well known. Like they've done a bunch of campaigns. Lock and Load and Devil Pig are maybe the smaller ones among them in terms of what they've done. But even then, like they've done a bunch of games. So if you're putting out a game and you're a fairly well-known publisher, especially, within your genre, it's going to fund, right? It's going to fund early. Especially with a kind of a specific genre like this that has kind of a niche audience that may play only these kinds of games. They may be quick to jump on the offerings that appeal to them because there's a lot of games out there. There aren't necessarily a lot of war games out there, or a lot of well-known war game publishers. So let's just get rid of these. Okay, this is it listed as? I believe it's listed as Heroes of the Pacific. Yeah, so this is the 2024 listing, and it re-implements Heroes of Normandy. And if you're curious about that, this game has a 7.4 score on Board Game Geek, which is, solid enough, I think, especially if it's a genre that you like. And it's got a weight of 2.75. For my money, anything over a 2.55 is medium heavy, so this would be over that line. And Heroes of the Pacific is a 2-player game designed by Jan and Clem. And they've done some other war games, such as Heroes of Normandy, the one that this is sort of reskinned from, and some Warhammer 40,000 stuff. Shadows over Normandy, more of a board game here called Carnage. Heroes of Stalingrad. So they've done a bunch of different things, and I would imagine their fans probably are aware of what they've done. But this is another war game, dice rolling, grid movement, variable player powers, and this is also set in World War II. Let's take a look at what everything looks like. So you've got a board here. Now see, this is taking the different route from something like the BattleTech game, because this comes with a board and cards, and it's got more of a kind of a board game system going on here. Right, so that's kind of everything that you're going to be getting with this. And if we will look down at the pledge levels, so the first pledge level here, Gung Ho, does not give access to stretch goals. So this is kind of the base version of the game. And if we go down into shipping, okay, so there's 3 pledge levels coming in at 23, 25, and 32. The euro and the dollar they're almost in line. So I believe it's like $25. Let's see. $25 for 23 euros, which means this pledge level, it says 43, but when you plug it in here, it's 42. So, plus $25 shipping means that this is going to cost $67 for the base version here. All right, so that would be this one, Gung Ho, just the base game, no stretch goals. Then if you go to Semper Fi, you're going to be getting this Battle Pack #1, Tokyo Express, and some kind of smaller kind of scenario packs, War Stories 1 and War Stories 2, and all unlocked stretch goals. If you want to go down to Banzai, you're going to be getting all those things, plus this storage box, which has these different game elements in it, and they all go in there. Another storage box for the Japanese-related stuff, sleeves, and another storage box for all these other things. So this is pretty all-inclusive, all-in. Banzai, let's say. So you're kind of getting all of this other stuff. And there's the delivery costs. I guess they're not going to really break down those individual boxes. The illustrators here are Eric Belisle, Tomas Jedrzejek, and Ruben Megiddo. And I know Thomas Jedrzejek, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's done a lot of stuff. Really great artist. The other two guys I'm less familiar with. The final campaign of this period that also launched on Thursday is Unmatched Adventures Tales to Amaze. And as you can see, I've actually backed this one already. If you're familiar with the Unmatched series, I should say if you're not familiar with the Unmatched games, they are rather simple, rather light fighting games. You've got a board and you've got cards, and it's very centered around your cards. Your cards give you a lot of tactics to play. There's defense cards, there's attack cards, and every character that you play has a deck that's very much customized to them. So playing them feels different for every character. And then usually there's some other things that come with that character, like a sidekick, sort of some minions maybe, some environmental tokens. It all depends on that character and their abilities. So they have a funding goal here of $10,000. They're at $296,000. These games are really well made. They're also very popular, and they're very accessible. So it's not surprising that it's done this well already. It's from Restoration Games. The campaign will finish on April 10th, and it will deliver on August of 2023. Now, there's only one pledge level for this, and maybe I'm bearing the lead, but here's what this is. Unmatched is a series of fighting games. So you can play against one-on-one, you can play in teams, but it's always been fighting games where you're just fighting against each other. This is actually adding on or creating a campaign that you can play cooperatively. So it's a first for this series, and it gives you a different way to play Unmatched, especially, if people are interested in this game and they're not so interested in high conflict games where they're fighting each other. So this is a way you can make it into a cooperative game. So Tales to Amaze is going to come with a new character set, 4 new characters. See, it's very simple. Initiative, move, got plot cards, you're going to fight. And it comes with 2 new villains. So you've got the Mothman and you've got the Martian Invader. And this has got sort of a pulp science feel to it, this card set. And here are your new heroes. So you've got Dr. Jill Trent, Science Sleuth, who has a lot of gadgets. You've got Annie Christmas, who hits harder when she punches from behind. You've got Nikola Tesla, who's obviously going to be using some of Tesla's inventions. And then you've got Golden Bat, who is billed as the first superhero. And then within that, you're going to have this, campaign that you can play. And they don't list everything here, but they say that in the Pledge Manager, you're going to be able to add in a lot of other Unmatched things. So if there's, different expansions that you've been looking for, different sets you've been wanting to get, those hopefully will all be available in the Pledge Manager. And, there's Marvel sets. They just came out with a few Marvel sets. There's a Buffy Vampire this set, although I hear that's among the weakest of them. My favorite, I haven't played the Marvel games yet. I'm looking forward to playing those. But before playing those, my favorite is Cobble and Fog, which has Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and The Invisible Man and Sherlock Holmes. And these games are just pretty amazing. The way that they are just so well designed, and the fighting style is based on, you know, each individual character, and the characters feel different. They play different. So what's the shipping on this? Okay, so shipping in the US or Canada is free. So it's already included with this $60 pledge. Now, I am unclear. I mean, this is probably going to go to retail. Restoration Games has a lot of games that go to retail. So the question is, what is going to be unique to this version that wouldn't be available in retail? Or are you just supporting the company? And here's what it is. So as a special bonus to backers, if you pledge for a copy of the game, you will also receive these special promos. So these are things that'll probably be, yeah, they're tokens in the game, but if you're pledging this version, you're going to get these, I think they're maybe even ink washed miniatures. So personally, as far as I'm concerned, a company like Restoration Games and a game like Unmatched, I'm willing to support them anyway on Kickstarter because I think they do such good stuff. I want to get the game and I want to support them as a company. But if you do, you'll get those extras. If you want to wait for a cheaper price, you can wait for it to hit retail. And once it does, you just won't have those little minis in it. Now, if we go over here, yeah, so here's the game on Board Game Geek. The designer of this version of the game, or designers, are Jason Hager. It's his first time doing something, and Darren Reckner. But they're working from this set, I mean, this system, which has so many sets already available, and it's really well designed. It's you can't really mess it up right at this point if you're just sticking to the design of the whole overall system. And the artists on this version include J.J. Ariosa and Benjamin, Ashley Floreal, Nastia Len, and Kwanchai Maria. And there's some amazing artists in there. The ones that I'm most familiar with are J.J. Ariosa and Kwanchai Maria. Okay, so that wraps the 7 campaigns that have premiered during this period, Wednesday and Thursday. But before we wrap the video, I do want to talk about 3 campaigns that are completing next week. So if you haven't backed them or you haven't heard about them, this is kind of your last chance, a heads up to maybe take a look at these. So first up is Alpujarras and Fisheries of Gloucester. This is on Kickstarter, and it's going to end the campaign on Monday, so March 27th. This is just over the funding goal, so it's going to fund, and this is 2 smaller games from Dr. Finn's games. Alpujarras is sort of has a rondelle, so you're going to be doing actions using a rondelle. There's kind of farming and harvesting going on, and then the other game, Fisheries of Gloucester, obviously is a fishing based game, and here you're gonna have these wooden pieces, and that's what that looks like. And I believe Fisheries of Gloucester is a 2-player game. Let's see what they say. Now, despite the fact that Steve Finn and Dr. Finn's games have published a bunch of games, they've done pretty well. He's a pretty well-regarded designer at this point. He's still kind of like a smaller operation, and so I believe this may only be available in the U.S. And if you try to do shipping, if you try to pledge and you're really far away, you may get astronomical shipping. But here are the prices. If you want to pledge Fisheries of Gloucester, it's $25. Alpujarras is $35. The bundle together is $55. And then there's another bundle that includes some additional games. As far as shipping goes, let's see what they say. What are your zones? Okay, so USA is zone 1. So shipping, for Fisheries would be $6. So you'd be looking at 33. Alpujarras would be 43 with shipping, and then the two together would be 66. And just to confirm, yeah, Fisheries of Gloucester is a 2-player game, very light. And it's described down here as the game lasting 6 days or rounds. On each day, players have a designated number of hours to spend to perform various actions, such as charting the course, sailing your boats, and catching fish. Each player has a fleet of 3 boats that can be advanced by first charting a course, laying down an ocean tile, which have various polynomial shapes. With courses set, players can move their boats along the course, racing against other boats to find the prime fishing spots. So, it's a head-to-head game, 2-player game, sort of a duel game. It's got tile placement in it, and action selection seems to be kind of the main mechanism here. And it's themed around fishing. And if you're curious about what else Steve Finn has done, because I know a lot of people know his games, he's designed Biblios, Herbaceous, Floriferous, Sunset Over Water, Herbaceous Sprouts, the Whatnot Cabinet, Nanga Parbat, Biblios Dice, Cosmic Run, the Little Flower Shop, Mining Colony, Mob, Big Apple. So those are some of his games. But he's a pretty good designer, but he's still kind of like operating a homegrown operation. And I'm not going to go through the shipping too much. I just kind of talked about it in relation to the US pledges. But I know he originally had this on Gamefound, and he did not have shipping to some countries there because he's doing a lot of the shipping himself. And so if he's shipping himself, to other companies, the shipping costs get really prohibitive. And the campaign wasn't really funding on Gamefound. And he thinks he likes Gamefound, but he thinks maybe because Gamefound is really just board games, a lot of board games may benefit more from being on Kickstarter, where you've got other types of crowdfunding and a potentially wider audience. And especially for games like his, which are lighter, they can appeal to non-gamers. His games generally can be picked up and played by just about anyone. But anyway, that campaign is the first one that's going to end on Monday, on March 27th. Then we've got Street Fighter V Champion Edition Legends. This one's coming from Colossal Games, and this one will also complete on March 27th. And I believe that they took some of the design and properties from Blacklist Games. Blacklist Games seems to have shuttered. The Sadlers used to design some games for Blacklist Games, and Sadlers they've kind of gone on to do other things outside of gaming, although they may be working on some designs again. One of them was working on a novel, another one was going into some kind of computer design work. But Blacklist Games had some problems not related to the Sadler brothers, but with the guy who was kind of running it. And there were several campaigns that weren't delivered. And I believe that a lot of the Street Fighter game was originally developed through Blacklist, and then Blacklist either sold off the property or let it go. And a lot of the designers and the artists have moved over with this game, with this property, and it's being published by Colossal. I will say I think the Sadlers are great designers. I really like their design work, and I'm not a really big Street Fighter fan, but this looked cool to me. And obviously, the fact that it's funded at $100,000, there are fans out there. So here's a look at kind of the cards and the minis. That's what the board setup is going to look like. Brawling cooperative action. Master your abilities, unleash devastating combos. And I think any fighting game is going to be all about the combos. So you're going to have your different fighters with kind of cards for them. Also standees, if you go the standee route. And there's expansions, the Four Kings contents. Darkness Within, another expansion. More content. Exclusive content, Dan Hibiki Fighter Pack. So here are your pledge levels. You've got the fighter tier, which is going to come. I think the Den Hibiki Fighter Pack is kind of a Gamefound thing, so it's going to come with everything. And they've got the base game over here, and then reveals, I think, are probably the stretch goals. Yeah. Okay, so that's your kind of base pledge. Let's see. Delivery costs. All right, so 18, 22, and 25. So this one here, okay, so it's going to be 93. Then you've got the combo tier, which is going to add in the Four Kings, one of the expansions. And that was $22 on the shipping, so you're looking at $137. And then you've got the all-in tier, which includes both expansions, and that one's going to be $175. So those are kind of your three price pledge levels here. You can also purchase these expansions separately as add-ons. They've also got extra dice that you can throw on. And this is just kind of look at their stretch goals. But I imagine Street Fighter is one of those properties where it's kind of already sold itself to its fans. And it's got a good enough publisher here that, you know, if you're a fan of the IP, there's probably no reason not to get it. But that people who aren't really interested in Street Fighter, they're not going to be interested in backing it because, I don't know. That's just my guess. So the designer is credited here as Mitch Schroeder, and it's coming out of Colossal Games. Let's just take a quick look. Mitch is credited as working on Brook City, which is one of Blacklist Games'. Well, it was an expansion for one of Blacklist Games' previous games. And Naruto Next Generations. Okay. And then Colossal Games, they're probably best known at this point for Western Legends. But they've also done Omen and Reign of War, Mezzo, Terrors of London, the Almanac games. There's been two of those, Neolithic, Papillon, Ruination, Imperious, Reload. So that's kind of their output. But again, this one is also going to fund on Monday. The final thing that I wanted to kind of bring to your attention here is called Wards of Stonefall Chapter 1. This is a print and play roll and write game, which I don't always cover these. I usually don't cover these. But this one stuck out to me. And I'm considering pledging this one. So it had a funding goal of $200. It is funded at $1,000. This is essentially a print and play roll and write game with a little narrative story set in a fantasy world. And there are essentially 3 scenarios in a campaign. And if you back this, you will get those 3 scenarios. And there's a little kind of narrative story that goes along with it. So, you know, you can replay it, or you can just play it through once if you just want the 3 stories. And I figure 3 games for, you know, $7 is pretty good. If you wanted to throw them an extra $3 to get your name on the backer page, that would be an extra $3. But, you know, it's like $2.50 a game. So that's a cup of coffee a game, and not an expensive cup of coffee at that. Now, if it does well, they're planning on doing, I think, 3 more in the series. So it'll be 9 scenarios, 3 related campaigns. I suppose that means you'd also have your chance to jump in on a later campaign and pick it up, if it ends up succeeding well enough for them to do that. But it has funded, and I think it looks pretty cool. Like I said, I don't think I'm going to pick up Alpujarras or Fisheries of Gloucester just because I don't really need smaller games. But I'm intrigued by these. I'd really like to play them, to be honest. And Fisheries of Gloucester looks interesting to me. But I'm at a point right now where I'm trying to remove games from my collection. So for whatever reason, I just think those Dr. Finn's games didn't make the cut for me. And Street Fighter is just not really my thing. I have a friend who's into a lot of these kinds of games, fighting games, and I would totally play with him. And I'm sure I would have a fun time, but I'm not going to back it. Which means the only thing that I'm really considering backing is Wards of Stonefall. And it's an easy back, right? Because it's so cheap. So I just want to see what else they're credited for doing before. McKay Anderson. Okay, so they only have one ranked game, which is this game called Snack Time, which does not really have a great score. And their studio, Backfire Game Studio, same thing, I think. Yeah, Snack Time. But that's cool. I'm still willing to give them a chance on Words of Stonefall since it's only a $7 pledge. And it's a cheap roll and write print and play game. And who knows, maybe this will be the thing that takes them to the next level and really evolves them as designers and jettisons their company. So I'm not going to back this right now on camera, but I think I'm going to back it. So yeah, I'm interested, I'm intrigued, and I like to support smaller designers, and it's pretty easy to do it with this campaign. Thank you very much for joining me today with this video. 7 campaigns that launched in the last couple of days, 3 campaigns that are funding next week. I will be back on Tuesday looking at all the campaigns that funded over the weekend. So that is Friday through Monday. And in that video, I will have a back half section, but instead of looking at games that are funding, soon in the coming week, I'll be talking about the games that I actually played in the last week. And I know one of those games will be the Defense of Procyon 3. The day after that, I'll be back with another video, and that will be the big video in this weekly series that comes out on a Wednesday and looks at everything that launched on a Tuesday. And Tuesday is usually the big launch day, and so in those videos, I don't have a back half. I just focus on the games that launched. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please consider liking and subscribing. And I will see you very soon. Until then, take care and play lots of great games.